So, Mike, let's set the stage a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Zestimates that Zillow offers, and maybe some of the things that our seller clients should be aware of when they're looking at a figure that is derived from public information. And then also, what a lot of people may not realize is that homeowners themselves can go in, and or agents can go in and suggest certain things have been done to a property to change a Zestimate amount.
Correct.
Well, without validity in some cases. So let's talk about that. So have you had a client ask you what the value of their home was in relation to a Zestimate? I know the answer is yes, but we're on video, so we want to talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
We want to have something that is, somewhat relevant and offer valuable information regarding this topic. So on that note, yes, you have. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So Zestimate is the computer's algorithm on a site called Zillow.com that puts forth an algorithm-based response to one-size-fits-all houses. This is the value, not a range. Like you said, you absolutely can add things. Oh, this bedroom count was wrong, or we have done this super nice, and it's very subjective. I remember it was a couple years back, I saw a property that actually had a church as a comp. Comp meaning a comparable sale that we would utilize as a comparison of value, and then utilize that for the subject property or the property we're talking about. And that comp being a church really solidified for me, I get the radius space search. I get the price per fit where people would get that derivative value, but we can't say that 100% that's accurate without someone as a true professional going inside, examining the property. The only time I've seen Zestimate somewhat on par are neighborhoods that are pretty much homogeneous. They all look the same. They have the same general,
Sure. Same lot size. They all have a 2-car garage, or they all don't have a garage.
Right.
The features are generally similar. But I would say, even in those cases, Mike, over the course of time, as people make improvements and changes to the property, then that Zestimate becomes less relevant, right?
100% agreed.
So I would say in the markets that I work, which happen to be, there are a lot of older homes in the communities that I serve, Cotswold, Myers Park, Foxcroft, where a lot of changes have been made throughout the years beyond what is in the tax record, right?
100%. And
then, and that's really where the Zestimate comes up in a conversation when I'm having a seller listing appointment or an inquiry, if you will. I'll really point to, okay, is the tax record accurate? In many cases, it's not. Either the square footage or bedrooms, baths, lot size are off, and then these clients have, many of them, not all of them, many of them have made improvements to the home. Now, Zillow, they don't send a representative out like our county tax assessor to make a on-site evaluation. There's no Zillow rep that's looking in the windows and taking an inventory of all of the fantastic improvements and the master suite addition and the Carrera tile in the shower. They're just not taking into account. So I have found a larger discrepancy in the communities that I serve, to your point, in direct comparison to maybe outlying areas where tract-built homes that are fairly consistent with one another.
Agreed. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like going like WebMD. You go to your doctor because you trust their opinion as a professional. They go through an assessment process. They have a follow-up process, and then they have a conclusion of an end result. And then they set up a game plan of what your health condition might look like, depending on what that is.
Globally. Not just about this, right?
It's a scientific method that's utilized to help people and to take care of people. And so if we look at that similar in real estate, not all real estate things are in the box, if you will. And Zillow puts houses kind of in that box. Like, you can utilize it as a baseline of understanding.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
Just see it.
Just like to your point, WebMD, going to Zillow might allow someone to maybe come up with some really good questions that they're going to ask their real estate professional, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, what the square footage is. Agents are required to either measure or hire a professional to measure, to hone in on the exact square footage, and to walk. And furthermore, we have an understanding in the markets that we work with what additional value, cost versus benefit with respect to updated kitchens, bathrooms, how many bathrooms, if there's a differential from a particular comparable.
Absolutely. And we happen to understand as professionals what the appraisal process is and the appraisal method.
Sure.
And there's different methods of valuating properties. As we know, the most common is the comparable approach. That's what we generally use, meaning that we're pulling comparable homes A, B, and C in a given radius or neighborhood, and then making adjustments to what is sold to get a baseline of value range for the specific property we're talking about. That's not to imply that something that has an income approach for investment properties or replacement costs,
which sometimes is very relevant.
So the appraisal method is a lot more deep dive. Just like talking to a trusted professional in real estate, we understand that method and we utilize not only what's sold in the past, utilizing the comparable method, but also what are we competing with now?
Sure.
I don't think the Zestimate factors in competition dynamics in a marketplace.
Oh, absolutely. And buyer demand.
Right.
Because furthermore, a Zestimate is their idea of value. And I'm saying the Zillow's estimate of value, hence the Zestimate, is what they're providing is a snapshot based on information that they have in their algorithm, but it doesn't take into consideration buyer demand and how many buyers or where the market is fluid, right?
Yes.
Opposed to 3 or 4 months in the past where maybe a recent transaction might have been recorded and therefore showing through the public record.
Yeah, that's 100%. It's not an appraisal. It's an algorithm, and if it was, it's likened to say be called a Zestimate.
How about that? You might have it might be the next thing that we see, right?
Then it would be a Zillow development, a Zebellament.
Good stuff.
But of course, things like multiple offers we've talked about before. I mean, it really takes someone walking through a property. It doesn't factor in anything in the interior.
Sure.
It says, "Oh, a property's worth X," but you walk in and nothing's been touched in 20 years.
Well, let's talk about what it doesn't cover, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't cover the differences in improvements because, once again, there's no representative coming out from Zillow to look in windows and ask you questions about the improvements you've made since you've lived in your home. It doesn't talk about types of floor coverings, exterior construction. It doesn't talk about if you have a garage or a carport. And furthermore, it doesn't speak to if you're you might have external influence. It might be on a busy road, or you might be on a really, really quiet street that a lot of buyers find appealing, and that would potentially increase the value, right?
And around Lake Norman, it doesn't factor in the amount of lot square footage that has waterfront. The waterfront lot square footage, what faces the lake. It doesn't factor in how shallow the lake is, private cove versus open access. Sure. Is it dockable?
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah. In all fairness to Zillow, if they do promote, they do prefer folks that work with an agent and to verify the information because they understand that there's a lot of misinformation, and how they sort of cover that is that they suggest people work with a real estate professional who can verify.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So with that, we'll just end it there on the topic of Zestimates. We help our clients work through to come up with a true value of their home all of the time. Most often, these estimates are coming in off base, sometimes high and sometimes low. So it's case by case.
Yeah, agreed.